Welcome to the Your Message Received podcast. And now, taking your message to the finish line, your host, John Duffin.
Hey folks, this is John Duffin here with Duffin Media. Welcome back to another episode of Your Message Received. Your Message Received is the home, the place, the platform. I was trying to say home, not home. It is to find your best business voice. Heck, find your best voice. Get what you want, find what you need, improve your results, meet the person in your dreams, make billions of dollars. We're still working on those last two. Can't quite guarantee those yet. But who knows? Maybe today's guest will be able to make this rock for us. I have with me, oh, by the way, the reason that I can pretty well assure you that people keep coming back is we bring people onto the show that walk the walk. The show is all about your journey, your arc to authenticity. And we got a damn good guest today. So friend of mine that I'm really excited about, commercial real estate expert, and a heck of a lot more. Craig Mills, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you so much, John. I appreciate it. And thank you so much for inviting me onto your show. And I'm really excited to bring some value to your audience and see what we can create today.
I'm excited too, and I know you will. And one of the things I think about, so folks, as a preview, I've had the privilege of knowing Craig now for more than a couple of years. And the first time that we've had the chance to encounter was part of, well, heck, we're going to throw a major gratitude shout out to Lewis Howes, who in essence set the table of putting all of this together. So Lewis, if you're watching, listening, whatever the case may be, I got one of your disciples here, right?
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I wouldn't know you if
I wouldn't
know you if that. And I remember we met in person in 2023, if I'm not mistaken. But I remember a lot of online stuff. I remember, Craig, you were part of a book club that happened to be the Greatness Mindset, where we were connecting on a weekly basis. Just walk us through what got you connected to Lewis as we unfold how I get to stay connected with you.
So I got into Lewis Howes for the fact that he did some emotional intelligence training out in LA. So he talks about it on his show every once in a while. And it turns out one of his early mentors was from Columbus, Ohio. And he called up a gentleman named Chris Hawker and said, hey, you got to come take this training. It'll change your life. Long story short, Chris took the training and then he came back and ended up bringing that training back to Ohio. And I attended emotional intelligence trainings that were founded in Ohio. And Lewis was, again, the source and the connection of that actually happened. We brought into it. So through that emotional intelligence training, that was my first introduction to it. And it's one of those opportunities to keep walking the talk. Once you learn the tools, you get to keep using them over and over again. And
so we've had the chance, we meet in person. One of the things, folks, that you probably have already realized, but if not, you will in very short order, is Craig carries a ton of authentic energy. Which I had the chance to literally, like, there's nothing, like, to me, there's nothing like being in the presence of someone who has that energy and getting the chance to feel that energy. And so we met in person, and I remember we literally dove into each other. A mutual friend of ours, Chris Isham, was also a part of the welcoming committee at the conference.
Absolutely.
Right? So,
we came out from behind the table to agree.
Yeah, man, literally. Literally jump from behind the table. And to me, that was one of the things where it's, if you're lucky, folks, you've got people in your life that happens to. And if you haven't had that yet, well, here's my wish that happens to you and fast. Because you get to do things and things improve right away. Now, I also know, Craig, via social media, because if you are on social media, a great person to follow is Craig Mills, who has pulled together a lot of different initiatives that, as we talk about inspiring elevated habits
Yes.
is a organization that I have grown to love. Tell me, you just said it to me before,
Thank
Craig. Tell me the focal point of that organization.
So the focus of inspiring elevated habits, which I'm super proud of the name of it, because I hope that sets the context of the hope that is created in that. And the real focus on it is the coaching, training, and teaching around mindset and movement. And I mean, there's a double meaning of that: movement in physical, but also movement in being in action. Because just having the correct mindset without action, nothing happens. So it's getting in there, being what's the Teddy Roosevelt quote? I'm gonna botch it up a bit. That don't count the naysayers and the critics. Listen to the person that's in the arena, that's bloody and sweaty and in the fight. Like, so if I want to surround myself with the people that are in the fight, and that's what we do.
I know nothing about Craig other than those two connections at first. Right. And one of the fun parts about the journey and the evolution and things like that for me are to see how things unfold. So if you folks are up at 4:15 a.m., you would at least have one other person that you could say hi to. How do I know that? Because I'm reading the post. All right. Well after 4:15 a.m. So I'm embarrassed. But my man has tried so many different things, and I absolutely love the fact that whether we're talking about dance, movement, whether we're talking about yoga, whether we're talking about swimming, whether we're talking about physical fitness and or gym and or food and or that you've been on it, man.
Yes.
Have you always been conscious in terms of those sorts of things?
Well, I actually defaulted into this. I was raised by a chiropractor in the 80s. So the whole nutrition, holistic lifestyle, I would have to admit, though, I was much more resistant as a child because we had to live against the grain. We shopped at Whole Foods before it was Whole Foods, which meant that was a semi truck that our circle of family or friends all ordered food, and we got Whole Foods delivered to us, and everybody, we had that sugar-free pop back in the day before diet was actually good, and it was not fun. But that opportunity, because when I was going through school, I was the only one that didn't have treats and tricks and stuff like that in my bags, and I didn't have the Lunchables. I didn't have that. I was always homemade stuff, and that got me comfortable being uncomfortable, doing something that is against the grain. And that's been one of the most valuable parts of doing that.
But I can think about like during the 80s and stuff that, there was no technical Whole Foods. Like, I remember, I moved into where I happen to live in Philadelphia. God, it was almost 3 decades ago, right? And there was a health food store on the corner.
Okay.
Right? But here's what I remembered about health food stores, and I'm absolutely stereotyping health food stores by the appearance and contents of one or two. They were dirty and weird and darkly lit, and it felt weird going in to me. So it was so easy to not. And it's a terrible excuse. You as a kid are literally feeling like I'm the only one in class or whatever. How long did it take you to get right with that?
A very long time.
Right?
I don't know when it was, but it is laughable now that I'm sitting here going, like, my dad he's up in heaven, super jumping up and down over the fact that I am doing the stuff that he was like, got it, Dad. I understand. I mean, that was one of the things that I was also blessed with. My father passed away due to complications of cancer. And one of the things that, and I mention that because he was given medications. So he took those medications and took them to his vitamin suppliers for his practice. Right. And he said, hey, what's your version of what they're giving me? So in this study, he was in a special study for throat and tongue cancer. He was the last man standing. And not by a year, by 10 years. He outlasted everybody else in that study by living his life in the holistic approach. And he actually died proving that point to me, that holistic will work better. And I didn't understand that until about 2 years ago. It clicked one day when I was sharing about my dad. When I was getting a new chiropractor, I was sharing my dad, and I just blurted it out. I'm like, yeah, he died proving that this stuff works. That's why I do it.
So how old, how old was your dad when he passed?
I want to say he might have been late 50s, early 60s. He wasn't, he got cancer when I was in high school. And so then he had it, and I don't know when his treatment was for 3 or 4 years, because I believe he's passed for about 15 now. So yeah, he wasn't too old.
So through the holistic approach, how long was he able to fight the fight?
10 years past everyone else.
That's amazing.
Actually, because I don't even remember the actual length of how long he lived past it. I just remember the length that he outlasted the second to last person.
Yeah, right. So that 10-year thing is just the end of that cycle, not from diagnosis.
The last man standing for 10 years.
My God.
That is
right.
That's unheard of. That's not a normal thing.
Craig, I'm trying to think of the first time I knew what a chiropractor did, because there was almost like that other sense, whether it's my age or whatever, or just not knowing that that was looked at in certain circles as weird too. So
crazy.
I mean, right? It's my God, I mean, what are you doing? And
when I was growing up, I said my dad was a doctor. I did not share what kind of doctor, because I didn't want to hear it. Like, that's just, they're all quacks is how I was raised. Like, oh, your dad's a quack. I
remember the term, but I want to go back, man, because one of the things I think about is like the roots of what took place. So about how old would you say you were when your dad, I don't know how else to say, but when your dad in your mind is not a quack, and you just said 2 years ago when you're fully implementing, but how old were you when you're thinking, wait a minute, this is not so crazy, and holistic in the terms of the overall thing? About how old were you when it was starting to click, like this could be legit?
That's a great question, because when I'm starting to think about it, there's like different layers to that. Because the first thing when you asked me that question, and that took me back to when I was a early teenager, let's say between 10 and 13, something like that. And I remember getting cut in my kitchen. And I don't know how this information got around me, but my dad played those tapes, motivational tapes, nutritional tapes. Every time I was in the car with him, he played me. I was learning something, even if I was resistant to it. But I made a decision. I said, I heal fast. And I would put a Band-Aid on, and I was fascinated with the fact of like how my body would heal. And I would see people complain about healing slow. And I just said, okay, cool. I heal fast. So I from a very early age, I at least started to put in that mindset of like visualization and like embodying it versus saying and being a victim to it. So I was exploring this early on.
I can't believe when you think about 2024 and you think about how like wildly acceptable this has become, that when I think about, and then you think about all the people that were never given, like the information was there, but for some reason it just wasn't either promoted properly, or it wasn't like some sort of a galvanized push in that regard. For me, I remember my first like conscious thoughts of holistic medicine, right?
Yeah.
Like even knowing the term, if I walked it back, it was probably no more than say 15 years ago. No more. And maybe 6, whatever. But I know I'm probably anchored pretty well in regards to what I recall, but it's been no more than about 15. I don't think it's even been 20 for me. And I remember being fascinated by a person who was, you talked about your dad being 10 years, you know what I mean, the last guy standing. I
Yeah.
remember a person, she's since passed away, and I found it fascinating in the way that she cooked and the way that she spoke. I especially was fascinated by the fact that people looked at her as crazy. Was Suzanne Summers. Of all
Oh,
people, was the first person, and she talked about holistic and fighting her own cancer journey.
mm,
And the way that she ate, by the way, like almost everything worked, but she was ridiculed. So I love here's what like I find fascinating for you, which
yeah.
is often kids rebel against information with their parents.
Yeah.
That you can either recoil or run from it.
Yeah.
For yourself, when did you feel like it was going to anchor in, like this is something I want to I want to more aggressively is not the word I want, but more passionately learn more about. Try,
You know what? There's just kind of like that phrase of when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired. I remember there was one time because I'm an all-American swimmer. I was captain of the golf team. Like I'm an athlete, and
Yep.
I performed at a very high level.
Mhm.
And somewhere in my early 30s, maybe mid 30s, I got winded going up the steps, and I
Mhm.
went, "Holy cow! Wait a
Mhm.
minute! Like
Mhm.
I'm breathing as if I just ran a mile like 10
Mhm.
years ago. This is not good." So examining that and then looking at it because, and, when you speak about cooking, I mean, you're right. I go off in the deep end on all these things. I learned how to cook. I got special pans for them. They got titanium and surgical steel, cook food at a certain temperature. So that way you don't destroy the nutritional value of it. And, I don't know where I just went with that. I just started getting into my cooking. Like I remember the pans, the salad masters.
But see, that's to me a definition of going all in, right? I
Yeah,
mean, like that sense of being very passionate about it. Let me ask you this because you just said it and I want to make sure I got it right. So you're an
yeah,
all-American swimmer. So if I'm doing the math correctly, typically college ends at about 21, 22, and you're
yeah,
saying in your mid 30s, you're realizing you can't walk up. So when
yeah.
did you immediately stop swimming after college, or did you
Oh my
continue?
goodness, yeah. Like at college, like that dropped off, and just a fun. And maybe I would do it every once in a while, but it was more
Right.
like just getting in the pool. And
Mhm.
then about 6 months ago, a friend of mine said, "Hey, you want to go swimming in a quarry?" And I went,
Mhm.
"Sure." And I'm in my head, I'm going, "All right, we're gonna go splashy, splashy, hang
Right.
out.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll be peace." He's like, "It'll be peaceful and serene." I'm like, "I'm in."
Right.
And so we get there, and he's like, "Do you have goggles?" And I'm like, "For what?" Like, you need those to watch the lane in
For
the
the
bottom of the pool.
Olympians.
Yeah.
Right.
And then he's like, "Do you have a cap?" And I went, "For what?" "That's to protect
Hmm.
my chlorine. We're in fresh water." What? He's like, "It's
Right.
good cold water. You might want to keep the heat in." And I went, "What are we doing?" And he's like, "We're going to swim over there to over there." He's like, "You were a swimmer, right?" And I went, "Yeah, like 20 years ago."
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, but that moment, and then he just because I said yes to connect with
Mhm.
a friend and to an adventure, he got me into open water swimming, and
Oh my
just
God.
that part of that connection. I mean, first off, cold
Mhm.
plunges are a lot more fun when they are in beautiful scenery. I mean,
I got you.
let's
Hmm.
put it that way. And on top of it, then I'm swimming, so that I'm not stuck in a small pool. I've got a cold plunge outside, and when I'm sitting in there, it's like
It's
this is movement
insane.
I can do. Yeah, at least in the water, I can like move and get my body temperature up a little bit. But yeah, that healing of the water,
Hmm.
and that's fantastic for weight loss as well. The We lose body heat, so we burn burn more of our calories through it. It's awesome.
I love that. Talk to me about the fear factor of that, though. So, as you're saying, you went from, and by the way, you're in a controlled environment when you're swimming, all American, whatever, and it
Yeah,
is you're an athlete, no question. I couldn't possibly go that, never in my life, but you're in an indoor pool and you're not going to drown.
yeah,
So at some point, someone's going to come get you if that's the
it just
case.
happens.
If
Yeah,
you're an all-American swimmer, where's Craig? But when you went into the open water,
yeah.
how long did it take you to get past the fear?
That's interesting because
Mhm.
there's a couple different fears that happened
Yeah,
in that. One of
talk to
them
me.
Yeah. So one of them, you're looking down, you can't see anything. There is nothing there. Awesome. There is nothing there in the bottom. So you have your mind to think about. And I will just admit, like, sometimes you're like, what if there's a giant monster? And you just, it's like a stupid thing. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh no, I'm mentally protecting myself of what's going on. And then getting lost because you can't see anything. There's nothing to do. You can only look when you're breathing. So there's that. So then one of the other ones, because I started swimming when it was about 70 degrees in the water. That's really cold for some people. That's not very cold for a lot of other people.
Right.
But it was cold enough that it got me into a temperature that set me into a panic. Now, I've never struggled swimming ever. And you have one of those buoys that you're with, and I'm sitting there swimming, and I'm trying to swim through it. And I guess like the temperature of it, and I hadn't gotten my body up yet, I started to actually panic. When I was holding on to a buoy and I'm sitting there like, and my buddy's swimming, he doesn't know because he can't see me. You know, he's just going down the quarry and going around, and I'm sitting there like, do I need to go back? Like there's like a part of, okay, how do I soothe myself? I'm in a panic. Panic never actually solves anything. It only, narrows my focus and narrows my thoughts. So, giving that shift and walking through that was just an absolutely freeing experience. And then to then get past it and then to go catch up with my friend, which I didn't catch up. I cut across. Like, I'm not that fast.
Well, so what? It's like, if you can't see each other, well, and you just, we're going to stay with your story that you caught up. But I'm impressed by a large part of that story, but very specifically that when somebody is able to walk through a panic situation, to me, that is probably more impressive because, as you say, I think you used the words even a moment ago. Well, of course, good luck getting that across when you're in a panic situation. You know what I mean? Like the logic part is great, but meaningless when you're in complete freak out mode. So I'm thinking that when you're able to actually guide yourself through, that to me is pretty spectacular. I'll ask you about that specifically.
Yeah.
Did that realization stick with you for futures? Is that something you've been able to draw on in other experiences?
I can tell you the exact moment I understood that and applied it.
Yeah.
So I was working at a Fred Astaire as an enrollment manager, and we were doing a promotion. We were getting an event together. We were shooting some videos, and then we had decided to take a break. Now, behind that studio, there was the road, the parking lot was dropped down from the road, so there was a little bit of a hill. So my daughter and I would go skateboard down it. We do the longboard, so it's more about like cruising.
Right.
So we would scoot down it, and there was 2 speed bumps at the bottom of the thing. So you either had to go in the middle of it or around the outside. You couldn't go on the other side. And so, long story short, I'm coming down there. My daughter got in my way 3 different times. So as I'm coming down this hill, I have to pick left side, right side, left side, right side. Then at that 3rd time, I was then stuck with the fact that I could either run into her, I could go to the left, but if I didn't make it, that meant that I was going to land in broken wood piles of crates and nails. So there was like sharp edges there. Or I hit the speed bump and then just see if I can land it or just see if I bounce. And so in that moment, instead of sending both of us to the hospital, I sent me to the hospital. And I did not land that trick. I did land, but not on the skateboard. I landed and broke 4 ribs. I collapsed my right lung and gave myself a traumatic brain injury pretty badly. I knocked myself stupid. I had to be taken care of. There would be times when I would be talking to people and I would just at some point go, I have no idea what we're talking about. Like, what have we been talking about for the last 20 minutes? Like, that's like, my mind would just blank out. I tried to work. I couldn't work past 30, 45 minutes, like even like 20 minutes sometimes. Like mental exhaustion would just like snap. And then because of that, I have more understanding and empathy for dementia patients, because when they come to, they get violent. And I just thought that was like an angry thing. That's actually a fear thing, because when I when I came to, and I'm like, who am I? Where am I? What's going? Yeah, like the first thing is panic. So like when they're being mad, I now know that they're just scared.
My God. And so what I'll ask you is this. So
Yeah.
with that, first off, just to continue along that thought, how old was your daughter when you were needing to make the decision as to, do I hit her? Do I go up? Like, how old was she at the time?
She's 18 now.
Mhm.
That means that she was about 13, I think 14
Okay.
at that age. Yeah. Because I was laying in the hospital, broken ribs, tubes
Mhm.
in, I couldn't even get up to go to the bathroom. Like I was stuck.
Well,
And
and physically and mentally at this point,
yeah,
and you've got a 13-year-old kid. So
yeah.
how did you compensate? Because it's not like you can just check out and be like, you know what I mean? I'll see you when I get back, and hopefully not angry. Like what's
The angry part. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
right?
I just
So
want to
what the
spend the
hell do
rest
you
of my life
do?
mad at my daughter. Like
Mhm.
I could feel that going. Like you
Mhm.
did this.
Mhm.
And well, I'll tell you, there was an evolution to the question that I got, that
Okay.
I came up with, or was given to me by a higher power.
Okay.
Because I said, how can I find the good in this? Like I don't
Mhm.
understand. Like I am crushed. All the
Mhm.
things business wise that I was building,
Mhm.
that's everything stopped for me.
Stop.
And
Wow.
I started asking the question, why is
Mhm.
this the best thing that could have ever happened to me? Why is this the best thing that could ever happen to me?
Mhm.
And I just kept asking myself that over and over and over and over. And I don't mean that like I worked on it once or twice a day. I had nothing else to do other
Right.
than mentally do this over and over. And it took a couple days, but then after that first couple days, it started the pain and the anguish started to lessen.
Okay.
And as I started to ask that question
Mhm.
even more, I started to find out, you know what? Everything went crashing down, but I was also running at a pace that was not sustainable for me. Like I
Mhm.
was juggling too many
Right.
balls, and so it was like, all right, cool, you get to reset. So the universe, balances you out no matter what's going on. And then the thing about the question that changed is actually this past year, instead of why,
Mhm.
it is now how, because
Mm.
why can
Mhm.
very easily become a victim story. Why
Uh-huh.
me? Oh, why? And it's interesting when I share that
Mhm.
question with people. Some people will start to argue with me of like, no, the birth of my child was the best thing that ever happened to me. And
Right.
I'm like, I get that, but you're missing the point of the exercise. Like it's to find the
Mhm.
good in the thing, and the fact that you're now being defensive over it says a lot more
Mhm.
about you that we need to
Mhm.
work on.
Craig, I love that because I remember for me, I contested a lot of things. Oh, by the way, like I can still picture a couple of very dear friends of mine after I had a pretty traumatic situation happen to me that I caused. So it
Yeah,
wasn't like what but I was really of that mindset. Car accident that led me to go, and that where I really was like, why me, and why, and they
yeah,
said to I'm not going to use the word elevate because I want to use that in what I call a great sense, but it was a case where they would say to me, oh, why do bad things happen to good people? And I fed into that at the time.
oh yeah,
I fed in. It was almost to me the gateway that I could feel sorry for myself. And
yeah.
so that you were able to program, even though you didn't use the term, that you were able to program such a readily available term from
Mhm.
why to how, so to speak,
Yeah.
just tells and speaks volumes about what you have been able to navigate and what is readily available for others to navigate as well too.
Oh, absolutely.
Um, what was your support base at the time when you went through, like I said, your daughter was 13.
Yeah.
Who else was in your sphere, so to speak?
It was my wife. My wife basically, and
Hmm.
it was a test of our marriage, like very
Hmm.
very early on, because she basically had to take care of an adolescent for a couple months. Like
Right, right.
like we would leave the house to go somewhere, and halfway there, I go, "Where are we going again?" Like
Mm.
it was just, and then you know what? I mean, I was sitting here. I'm sitting right by the step. The steps are over here, and
Okay.
I remember sitting here talking to her going, yeah, I'm going to go up the couch and get something to eat. And I remember sitting there looking at the stairs, seeing the couch on top of the stairs, and knowing that couch is not the words for stairs, but I couldn't say stairs. Like, it was
aphasia. So you're talking like somewhat like aphasia.
I'm not familiar with that word, but
Like stroke victims, and I'm no medical expert on anything, but why I bring it up is I know a couple of stroke victims. And so aphasia is the inability to either select the right word or the ability to be able to articulate the word. And so it's one of those two things. It's a brain misfunction or misfire in that regard.
Yeah.
And so you're saying stairs and give me the two words again. It was stairs and
couch. Yeah. Like
right?
I looked at the stairs and I saw a couch on top of them and I said couch. And I'm like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
When did you, so carrying another case of fear and situational stuff and resolve with a foundation that you have had with your dad and all that stuff. What are some of the things that you did to get better, so to speak?
Well, first off, I set a goal. And so I was sitting there broken at home, couldn't move. The only exercise they told me that I could do was cough. And I had 4 broken ribs, if you could imagine how painful that is. And I coughed 1 into place while I was at the hospital. I coughed the 3 in place at my house. That was a very painful experience. I used CBD to smoke to cause me to cough. And that was because I couldn't cough. Like, I wasn't going to do it on myself.
Well, no. So it forces it to happen, right? Oh my God.
Right.
I can't believe that they're calling that an exercise. But anyway, I got you.
Right, exactly. I'm like, give me something else. But so I was sitting there going, like, I need a why. Like, what am I going to do? What kind of insane thing can I set for myself? And I said, and I'm sitting in Columbus, Ohio. I'm landlocked. There's no oceans near me. And I said, you know what? I'm going to learn how to surf. And I told my wife that. She's like, where? I'm like, I don't know. I got to figure out a plane ride. We got to set this goal. And so then I got curious and I started searching, and I said, you know what, maybe there's one of those float things that they have like on the cruise ships. Maybe they got one in Ohio somewhere. Well, I typed in Surf Ohio, and it turns out that there is a metro park in Dayton, Ohio, about an hour and a half away, that is a surf park. That depending on the rain level of the river, you can go to 5 different locations, and there is a perfect wave that you can go out and surf. And at 6 weeks, and my instructor did not know this, I got the okay. I hadn't done anything super physical yet. And I went there 6 weeks after getting out of the hospital, and I went on the surf. And I remember that first time falling, because I wasn't going to fall on my own. I literally fell, and I remember going, and then I landed. It kind of hurt a little bit, but then I went, I'm good. And then I was in it, and the guy was like, oh man, you were really after it. And at the end of the lesson, I went, yeah, I just had 4 broken ribs like 6 weeks ago. He's like, are you shitting me?
Yeah. Because I'm thinking he's probably thinking litigation. And
on my radar, I'm like, I need a goal. So first off, though, is I picked a goal, and I picked an insane one. And they told me that my balance was off. Like I had a really hard time understanding. So they were giving me balance trainings, and I said, you know what? I think I'm going to go get a paddleboard, because that's challenging. And they're like, oh no, don't do that. That's way too advanced. Which was a green light for me to go, okay, challenge accepted. All right, we're going to go get paddleboards, and I'm going to be on one leg on them.
So now you're back to Googling paddleboard Ohio.
Yeah. We went and got them. We for sure did that. And that's the thing, is that there's a blessing and a curse of the past that I have. Like, you challenge me, I'll rise to the challenge. And tell me I can't do something. Sometimes I just have to prove that I can.
Talk to me about your wife a little bit, because obviously this is not the kind of thing where you go it alone, as you said, and when I asked about your support base. So it could not have been easy on her. How did she navigate while you're like, you know what? I think I'm going to go surfing. Right? How did
Yeah.
she navigate?
It was a trying time for us. It was
Mhm.
learning because also had some coaching during that, and because my irritability went through the roof. Like I
Okay.
couldn't focus.
Mhm.
I was I mean I move around as it is. Like
Yeah,
that's just.
that's how I
But
know you, right?
yeah, but this was like not. I was uncontrolled at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a growing time of being able to take care. I mean, she's a super loving, powerful woman, so she
Yup.
stepped right into it. But it was also, trying on it like that. It takes a lot of energy to have to,
Mhm.
go work and then come home to take care of someone who's like, hey,
Well,
I,
she's a caregiver. I
yeah,
mean, she went through a stretch of being a caregiver to someone, and most often it seems like with caregivers, you get no heads up that it's coming. You know what I
no,
mean? You
yeah,
just do it. And I have the world of admiration for caregivers because of that,
yeah,
the suddenness of it, and that they don't have like a day off and they're not going to go surfing by themselves. So I'm blown away by this kind of resolve. So you set a goal. What else did you get to do?
One of the things is that I really got to search and find out who I wanted to build.
Hmm.
So at that point, I got involuntary knocked down to my basic form. So as I
Hmm.
was, trying to get my mental faculties
Hmm.
to back was a challenge because having a mental injury like that, it's
Hmm.
not like a broken arm where you can like see it healing and you can start to
Right.
use it. The brain is in it.
Hmm.
Like there is no, I don't know. It was just a little bit different of that. So I really started to look at my goals and wanted
Hmm.
to look at what I wanted to create and how I wanted to be and how I wanted to show
Hmm.
up. And I just started to like create, Craig Mills.
Yeah.
Like what am I going to do? Like
Hmm.
what things will actually align with the vision of what I want to create in the future? And I got a lot of great ideas, and they could all pan out, but is just because this is a good idea, does that mean that it
Hmm.
furthers my purpose in life?
Hmm.
And that gave me the opportunity to really go, all right, cool. I've had to stop everything I'm doing.
Hmm.
I've been forced to restart. I might as well be the best version of me and pick and choose
Hmm.
what I want to do. And for the last 5-6 years, it's been
Hmm.
an awesome journey, and it's getting better each time. So it's
What do you mean it's getting better each time?
well, so I look at self development as a continuous bike. There
Yeah.
is never a
Yeah.
time of
Hmm.
not doing it. And I mean, like earlier today, I was in a car accident like less than 20 hours ago.
Mm.
I'm in a doctor's office. I'm getting my car thing. I have so many things that are going on, but I'm still here, and
Hmm.
I'm learning how to handle that stress and
Hmm.
not let it be down. When I step into authenticity, that lets me step into neutrality.
Hmm.
And I remember the first time I ever felt true neutral. Okay, so I've experienced neutral before. Where I'm like, I'm not letting this affect me.
Hmm.
Like, really? Okay, I can see the teeth grinding.
Hmm.
So when,
Right?
yeah, but like, not if there's any kind of hold or charge is the term that I really like inside when you're not letting it affect you. The fact that you're saying I'm not letting it affect me, you're already letting it affect you. Because
Correct.
here's it affecting you. Okay, it
Hmm.
moved. Okay, here's it not affecting you. You're still pushing back.
Hmm.
This is it not affecting you. It just goes right through and it
Like
doesn't
a
matter.
cloud. Like I've
Yeah.
heard, like the way that it's like bad thoughts and or situations, if you treat them like clouds, which again, easier said than done.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what I love is I love your choice of words here in regards to utilizing the word neutrality. Thank you for that because I acknowledge that because it's a very clear way, I think, to understand what you're going through. So I think for
Oh yeah.
our audience, it's like it's perfect because that is a visual or a sound that I get. And so you're doing that. And I want to now, from that point, talk about, for instance, like, so you create inspiring, elevated habits,
Yes.
and you and your wife, Kimberly,
Yes.
are equal partners I feel like in that too. And I
Okay.
think that part is really cool that
Yeah.
you talk about, like you reference, oh, I was, an instructor, a Fred Astaire. Talk to me about the dancing. Because to me, like I said, from a couple perspective, from a singular perspective, whatever,
Yeah.
not a million people in my sphere are professional dancers. How did you take it up, and what's it like for you when you get to do it?
Okay. So there are so many layers to this, and
Okay.
I'll start. I'm going to try. Hopefully, I don't get lost on this because I get passionate about this. So the first thing that happened was my wife invited me to come teach a group class with her.
Okay.
So and this was my first group class. Like, so she taught me the moves prior to the lesson. I was not a pro at this point. I'm not a pro at this point, but I'm a trainer for him. But I barely knew what was going on. What I was armed with was my sales skills, my emotional intelligence, coaching, and things like that. So there was 4 people giving this class, and there was a rock'em sock'em robot couple in the corner because they just could not stop fighting the entire time.
That's the best expression.
It was that is what it looked like. And so Kimberly got done teaching the class. Right. She's like, all right, break down. Who do you want to help? And I'm like, well, I'll take the rock'em sock'em robot.
I'll take rock'em sock'em, right?
Yeah.
Red and blue robots. Yep.
Exactly. My whole goal was just to get them to stop fighting. I wasn't trying to cure anything, but it was just like, can I do something to change the energy here? So I went over there, and this is where dance changed from a movement to me to a language.
Oh,
so
okay.
This was a monumental moment for me. So I asked them I already knew what was going on from the distance. It was very obvious.
Right.
She was back leading and was taking too many steps when she just needed to take 3. And for him to sweep up. It's a box step with an underarm turn. She does a little spin and then embrace. Well, I walked up, I'm like, show it to me. They run into each other and they start bickering. I'm like, oh, okay. I got it. All right. And I said, okay. So instead of coming to her with like what a traditional dance instructor would be, like, okay, you need to do 1, 2, 3 and stop. Okay. His job is to do this. Your job is to do this. Instead of going into the mechanics of what was clear, I stepped back and went into the mind frame of how she was looking at her husband and how her husband was looking at her. So I asked her and I said, look, I just have a question for you. Is he your white knight? And she said, yes. And I said, all right, cool. Would you like your white knight to sweep you off your feet? She said, yes. And I said, okay, you're going to have to let him. And she goes, what does that mean? I said, well, when you're doing this step, you're trying to be supportive to him to do it more for him. And what I really need you to do is just do 1, 2, 3 and stop. And then give your white knight a chance to finish what he's doing. And I promise you, he'll sweep you off your feet. And then she went, okay. And I just turned to him. I'm like, do you need anything else?
Yeah.
And then I said, you better show up, buddy. And he went, I got this.
Right.
I said, all right, cool. Go ahead and do it. They did the little box turn. They did the underarm turn. She did 1, 2, 3, stop. And I was like, yes. And then like clockwork, he finished his move, embraced her. And then I watched her knees buckle and she put her hands on his chest and went, wait, we need to stop for a minute. And she went, like, caught her breath. And then they went googly eyes. And then,
oh my God.
And so then at this moment, I went, no way. I ran over to Kimberly and I said, did that couple over there just fall back in love again? And this is what killed me. She does this. Yeah. And then I laughed. I'm like, wait, this is monumental for me.
Right.
It happens all the time. Like, so that's when I started to learn like the magic of dance. When they say what the magic of dance is, that was it. And, and then I traveled the country with her, interviewing dance instructors, studio owners, and clients about the magic of a dance. And nobody in the industry actually coaches on the emotional side of it and the connection side of it. They all just say, why? Because it just happens. So that means that you don't even have to be good at this for this magic to happen. And if you have some intention with it, you can make it happen even faster and more powerful. And that's something I really want to, spread more of in the world, is that connection and love, really.
Greg, I love that, the way you describe it. You know what I'm running through my mind as you're saying it? So in my mind, I'm thinking of the way when you're talking about, the white knight, and would you want him to, sweep you off your feet. It is a very, holistic approach to movement, which to me, it almost underscores a little bit the sense of you having a very holistic background but not necessarily in dance and movement, but you didn't go from the angle of, no, I said 3, 2, 1. It's 1, 2, 3. No, just take this medication.
Yeah.
And get on out of here. You know what I mean? And it's a sense of treating symptoms or treating the whole image. What it also tells me is it doesn't take a forever to explain. You know what I mean? The way you gave that example, it was literally a matter of a couple things. They're like, and when you're speaking to the husband, and it's like, you better do this. And I got it. And he got it. So I think one of the things that I find really powerful in this is that you took the background that you had. You took the information that you had. As you said, you never were instructing before. And come in and take a non-conventional approach.
Yes.
And right.
When I was enrollment manager at Fred Astaire, I did take lessons, and I actually got to the point where when I covered lessons and I did that, I said, look, I just want to let you guys know, nobody else coaches like me around here. I'm going to do something completely different. I'm going to focus on your connection and your communication on it. If they're going to tell you about your steps, I'm going to talk about this. So just so you know, I'm going to be different than the rest of the people, just to tee them up.
When you teed them up, did everybody buy in?
Yes, they were excited about it, but then they also didn't know what I was really talking about. And it was just like, for example, one couple I was working with, and they were dancing, and the woman she was grabbing her husband's shoulder, and her thumb was dug in like this, like you could see the wrinkles. And I'm sitting there and I'm just watching them. I'm going,
like, ow.
Yeah. And I was looking at him going, like, don't you feel that?
Right.
And so I stopped. So basically when I'm working with a couple in that sense, it's like a referee. Boop, hold on, time out. And then it can become a translator. Hey, what do you think that hand, like, can you feel her hand on you? Yeah. I'm like, okay. So what do you think that means? He goes, I don't know. I went, okay. And then I turned to her and I just said, what does that mean? Why are you grabbing him like that? She's like, I can't feel him. I'm like, oh, you can't feel him. So you want to feel him. She goes, yeah. And I went, hey, she wants to feel you. You want to feel her? And he goes, oh, yeah. And I was like, tune in, buddy.
But see, I think that's a big part of it. It is vision, acceptance, and the other people, not necessarily you, the other people allowing themselves to buy in. I find that to me is what the magic that you're expressing. So from that, you've incorporated so many things into daily habits. Folks, if you're following on social media, as I already had said before, I repeat it because you now branch into a number of different categories: the physical and emotional, and spiritual, and what have you. Yes. What are some of the things currently in your mind? Like, if somebody is starting from point 0, we'll say, right? Just panicked about global events, panicked about their finances.
Yeah.
The panic that you experienced when you were at the buoy.
Okay.
But not as situational.
Yes.
Right? I think about like your courage in trying so many different things, and many of them starting at 4:15 a.m. You know what I mean? Which I say as a high compliment.
Thank you.
That you're welcome. So it's, to me, what would be, say, a couple of things that people should think about incorporating in regards to the movement, as you said, the mindset and movement, and mindset as movement. What are a few things that you think people could do to at least build some momentum? To
get started is what we're talking about. So we got this. I don't even remember who I got this off of. And it came in handy a couple of times. And one is starting to create the habit of just being there. Now, the guy that I copied this
Right.
is he was going into the gym, and he's like, I didn't like the gym. I didn't like it at all. He said, but every day I went to the gym, whether it was for 5 minutes, 3 minutes, I just physically went there. He's like, I didn't even have to work out. I just had to be there. And I started doing that. And then, but I noticed for him, he would go to the gym for 5 minutes. Well, for me to go to the gym, to pack my truck, to drive there, to get in, and then to drive back is like, there's about 30 minutes of travel there. Yes. So if I spend 30 minutes there, I feel like I'm wasting all this time. I'm spending 30 minutes to travel for 5 minutes at the gym. That drives me nuts. Yep. So I had 30 minutes at the gym. So I would go there. And there was a couple times in the beginning where it was me on this, like, all right, I'm the guy on the machine. Like, I should probably move. You go over. It's just getting in the habit of getting there and getting comfortable with it. Okay. You know? So that's one thing is just is getting into action. The other part that I really would like to stress is kind of like the secret sauce to authenticity is being gracious with yourself when you mess up. That has probably been the biggest hurdle because, you know, growing up and being a competitive person, you know, it's like, you know, you're hard on yourself to get better. And then, you know, here's my best, when's my next best? And doing that, you can kind of like get lost into doing that. And that perfection or, you know, not perfect, going after perfection can be a very stressful thing. And just, you know, I don't know. Do you swear on your podcast?
Oh, the answer is you do you.
Okay.
The answer is you do you.
Okay. Well, I'll say the phrase.
I support you.
Okay. Well, I don't have to. I can rephrase it. That's fine.
You do you in any way. That was one of the only things that I had suggested. You do you in any way that you want to do.
This is my vulgar way that I have done this. I look at anything and go, you know what? I really fucked that up. And nobody could have fucked that up better than I did. Look at how good I fucked that up. I went over here, made sure this fucked up, caused this to fuck up, that caused that. I doubled down on this thing. And nobody could have fucked it up better than I did.
By the way, you just nailed it in terms of do you swear here. It's like, so you just literally nail it. Look how well you did, right?
Yeah.
That's, to me, I've done that to myself, man, where it's just brutalized myself. I work with a therapist, and I always remember like him saying that sense of you just wouldn't speak to your best friend like that. You just wouldn't do it. And he would say, I can say that point blank about you. I'm not saying in general.
Yeah.
John Duffin, I know you, and I know you would never speak that way about a friend of yours. But meanwhile, no problem with throwing myself under a bus. So to me, the art of the language, as you brought up before, the art of the ability to be able to not beat yourself up and to just be there, to me, seem like reasonable things that you can do.
There's one thing too I want to add. There's a story about mugs. This is one of my favorite stories now. So there was an art class. They did a 6-week art class, and it was about making drink mugs. So they took it was a social experiment. They took half the class and they said, listen, we want you guys to make the perfect mug, make the best mug you could possibly make. And then they took the other half of the class and they said, we want you to make the most amount of mugs, no matter the quality. We just want you to go straight for quantity.
Yep.
Then at the end of the 6-week course, what they found out is that the people that made the perfect mugs actually made more inferior mugs than the ones that made the most amount of mugs. And when they went back and looked at this, they found that while they're trying to chase perfection, what is perfection? Is it even a tangible? They didn't actually reach it. And the people that just put in the work and just did all of it, they figured out ways to make it better and faster as they were in it.
Oh my God! So it's an efficiency thing for them, you know.
You just learn as you go. You know,
as you go.
What's the saying? Build the parachute on the way down.
Right.
You know, just jump.
I find that part fascinating. Talk to me now, because with your initiative, and you've got certain things coming up. that you were sharing with me before that feel like they are very much in alignment with what we were talking about here.
Yes.
Talk to me.
So everything, I mean, kind of coming back to that original accident when I said, all right, cool, this is what I want to go out and create in the world. That's what we've got coming up. And we've put it into an event. We've tied up to a fundraiser, and we're putting on a showcase and a gala. And the whole reason and behind that is to bring the dance world in. So the showcase is just something that in the ballroom dance world, it'll be competitors coming in. It's a competition style, and they'll get feedback from a national accredited judge. So it's proficiency of like, okay, like here, your dancing style was good about this, work on this.
Dancing with the Stars.
What's that?
Dancing with the Stars.
Kind of like that. Yeah.
Right.
And with the intention of that, and one of the things that we really wanted to do, it's a one-day event, is we're looking at creating community. So we have studios from all over Ohio and a couple from Indianapolis, actually, coming in. And because in some of these ballroom dance competitions or showcases, they can get kind of cold because people come in, do their show, and leave. So what we are really setting the intention for is creating that community of cheering for each other. You know, there is no first, second, or third, so it doesn't matter. Everybody wins. You know, you're out here to have fun. So we're really setting that community to it. So that's the first part is inside the dance community. And the other part of it is that we really want to introduce the dance community to people that think that it's intangible, or they can't do it, or it's too expensive. That's one of the things that we really are working to make dancing a little bit more affordable with group classes and events. So and the fundraiser, we're inviting, we have 100 seats for the dancers, and we have 300 seats for the non-dancers. So we're looking at bringing the community in. We have dance exhibitions coming in from all over Ohio. One woman is flying in from New York City to do a West Coast swing. We've got Argentine tango from Cleveland. I'm really excited about the show. We got a theme show in the beginning. I don't want to sneak on that one. But then at the end of it, we're going to tie it together. My wife and I are going to be dancing together. And the reason why I am dancing with her is that when you are in this event and you're having fun, you're going to notice a huge difference in skill level of dance from her to me. I'm there because I'm having fun and I'm willing. She's there because she's really good. She's a champion dancer.
Right.
Yeah. She's a British and American champion dancer. So you don't have to be great to be able to do it. All you have to do is be willing. So we're going to demonstrate the fact that it's a husband and wife team. We are not perfect. One of us is professional. And then after that, she's going to teach a group class that people can take care of. And then we're going to have some group dancing. So it's learning that connection and learning that movement. And we're hoping to introduce some more people to dance and make it tangible so people are encouraged to do it and try it.
Bud, I think that just sense of inclusion is really cool too. When?
December 8th is our event.
Soon. Right? So soon.
3 weeks.
I think it's really I go back to the word inclusion in this regard. Like the sense that people don't need to feel intimidated in this regard. Well, she's a pro and and he's an instructor and I'm just, right, trying not to fall down the steps. So, but what I mean is that it's like you get like that sense of making of God community is such a big deal to me now.
Yes.
It's just, I think it just makes everybody's odds of becoming more authentic better.
Yes. Yeah. And you get to surround yourself to have examples. And when you start to change your environment or the vibration that you're at, you start to attract different communities. It's been kind of exciting. There was one of those things, we're talking about authenticity.
Yeah.
And there was one that like the compartmentalization. And as a guy, I was taught at a very young age to compartmentalize everything. And I got some coaching not too long ago of don't compartmentalize what you're going through, bring it into the rest of your life. And that really kind of clicked this thing of going, wait a minute. It was like, don't compartmentalize this. And then all of a sudden I went, it's already, everything's compartmentalized.
Everything.
Yeah. And that's when I started to learn. And one of my nonprofits I work with is a men's fitness. They gave me this nickname Cocktail. And I was like,
why?
Because I used to be a competitive bartender. I was
There you go. And competitive even in bartending. So,
yes, yeah. Juggle bottles, blow fire. I did all that. I was gonna move to Vegas, but my daughter came along, and
right. And life sent you in another direction, and that's great.
Yeah. And when they gave me that nickname,
right.
I was kind of upset at that because that's the old me. That's bartender Craig. That's a different person.
Mm-hmm.
And through that process, I started to realize I had thrown the baby out with the bathwater.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, there's actually some pretty cool attributes about bartender Craig that I've kind of come back to. And then as I accepted that, I realized, oh my goodness, how many other things have I compartmentalized myself from? And as I've collected all these pieces that I have like slowly chipped off to appease other people, my authenticity has gone through the roof. And then it's easier to shift into neutral when I'm authentic. Like it's amazing.
I'm going to ask you in terms of cocktail Craig.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time saying that without laughing. But what I was going to say is, but I love it. And I say that as a compliment. But what I mean is this. As you've rediscovered parts that were compartmentalized and brought them back in, what are one or two traits that you felt like weren't useful, helpful, that you realized are?
Actually, I can do two. I'll do two things on it.
Please.
I will say swimmer Craig and bartender Craig in those sense. So bartender Craig, I learned some personality behind 3 feet of mahogany. So I learned how to deal with a lot of people. And so I have a confidence with dealing with people that can err on arrogance. And you know what? That's not a bad thing. And if you're intimidated by that, then that might be okay. Like that attitude of like, if you don't accept me, all right, like I got that back.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
That is great.
Swimmer Craig, it was ridiculously competitive. And maybe sometimes unhealthy competitive. But what I started to find out was, as I started to go through this, I'm starting to get competitive at a stoplight. If I got on the sensor before you did, am I going to get the green turn arrow before you did? Oh, yeah. And I'm sitting here going, oh my goodness. Like, wait a minute. I am still competitive. And then as soon as I brought that person back in, now my competitive, like it's okay to be competitive and want to win. It's all right.
I love it. It's more than okay.
Let's go.
Leads, right?
Yeah.
And that's what, like, in terms of the sense that as I follow and highly suggest that others you do, then you will see that competitive edge where you'll see Craig in a swimming pool alone, where you will see Craig at a crazy early time, as we've already touched on him multiple times. As I say, as a high compliment, where you're putting yourself through pain and torture, including a lacrosse ball, which to me hurts talking about, let alone feeling. But if you're leading and you're sharing that light with other people, I can clearly see how that would make your light brighter.
You know what?
The
thing I want to share about the 4 o'clock in the morning. One of the reasons I do that, one of the biggest motivators for that is that when I was working with myself and finding out what I wanted to create, what I found was that I felt I was the first thing off my to-do list that fell off. And most of the time, like I would have something maybe in the afternoon. Well, then I've got other things that are happening in the afternoon and then I would fall off. So if I get up a couple hours before anybody else is awake, I can accomplish all of those things that I normally would fluff off, and I can get them done now without any distractions. So I am it's me. I committed to me first, because once my oxygen mask is on, I help other people. And that's been the difference in the mindset of being able to function and perform at a higher level.
Ooh, I absolutely love that. Greg, in your mind, knowing what you now know and that you continue to learn, how would you define authenticity as it impacts you?
As it impacts me, man, there's like Authenticity for me is being completely at peace and at ease. That means that I am in a neutral state, that there is no charge of nervousness or excitement or fear inside of me. And when I'm checking my authenticity, this might sound a little bit ethereal, but in a general sense, it almost kind of feels like I can like reach my hand out and touch the universe's flow of energy. If I can say, all right, am I in my purpose, and am I doing this? Like it doesn't need to be like this, candles and incense and all of this stuff. That it's just a mental check-in, like put my hand in the water. Am I still in the flow? And when I get that like ease of use, like that's when authenticity is, because it's when things just seem to, like, as you're walking the path, the stone lands right in front of you where you need to step, and just trusting and walking through that. Like that's, I don't know, that's a long answer, but it's extraordinary. That's my answer.
Like you. And I acknowledge you so much. The energy jumps out from the screen. And to me, that's what makes it. You're very welcome. And I'm honored, and I acknowledge you for that alone. The best ways to find you, including social media, are how?
Best way is Inspiring Elevated Habits. We have a Facebook page, and we have a Facebook group. In the Facebook group, we have daily questions about inspiration and conversations. And then also the wonderlandshowcase.com.
Yes.
That's where you're going to be accessing us in the next 6 weeks. That's everything that we're doing is the showcase gala.
I love it.
And, if you want more information about that, text dance gala to 53555, just one word, and you'll get the information at Wonderland. So it's Inspiring Elevated Habits and the Wonderland Showcase is the number one 2 places to find me.
Buddy, I am so glad we got to do this. Last question. I lied. One more. Will you come back?
Absolutely. I would love to come back. Thank you. Thank you again, John, for the opportunity to talk with you, to add value. I hope that your audience found value in it and give me the opportunity to share, and you really touched in the fact that this is really along my alignment and my vision. So thank you for being a catalyst for me to be more powerful. And that just makes you more powerful to me, my friend.
Listen, you made it great for me. Folks, thank Craig Mills. Keep following Craig. All the links will be there. You don't have to do any homework. All the links will be in the bio of this episode. Just look, click, and treat yourselves. This is John Duffin here with Duffin Media. Thanks so much for checking out another episode of Your Message Received. Keep liking, listening, watching, following, telling all your friends, and we'll keep driving content through your front door. Again, John Duffin here. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll talk soon. Bye.
And now, making its way across the finish line, Your Message Received has been a production of Duffin Media.